Hello, welcome to Virtua Health's Real Talk Women's Health Chat. Thank you for joining us. I am Bridget Reuter from the Virtua Health marketing team, and we have a fantastic event tonight on a very important topic, keeping our physical and emotional hearts healthy. If this is your first time joining us, a reminder that your camera and microphone are disabled, but anytime during the event, if you have a question for our panelists, just type it into the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. Several of you have already submitted great questions in advance, so we will incorporate as many of those as possible into our discussion. If you would like to turn on closed captioning, you also have that option. Click on the live transcript button at the bottom of the Zoom screen, and that will allow you to show subtitles. All right, a recording of tonight's session will also be provided along with some helpful links about women's heart health and mental health resources that will all be emailed to you next week. So let's see, we have still a few people joining, but why don't we jump into it? All right, I am pleased to welcome our two experts, Virtua cardiologist, Dr. Rozy Dunham. She's originally from Maryland and did her residency at Temple University and her cardiology fellowship at Hahnemann University. Dr. Dunham is married with 3 children who are ages 11, 12, and 15. In her spare time, which I don't know when that would be, she enjoys yoga, running, Harry Potter. She is a fabulous guest, and we're so happy to have her as part of our Real Talk chat. We also have renowned holistic health coach Karen Wolfe. She is originally from Sydney, Australia. Her accent is just lovely. Where she trained to be a medical physician and health coach. She earned her master's degree in psychology from the National University in California, where she lives with her husband and 2 dogs. She loves doing her daily fitness boot camp. When she's not traveling or on the speaker's circuit, you can find her walking the beach with her dogs. West Coast living. Sounds lovely. Welcome, Dr. Dunham and Dr. Karen. Happy Heart Month.
Great to be here. Hey, everyone.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes. So in preparation for our chat, I was reminded that cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women, more than any cancer. And it's not just older women, right? It's women sometimes in their 20s and 30s who can be affected by heart disease. That really made me sit up and pay attention. So we are going to start off with a polling question. So everyone who has joined can please, when the question comes up on the screen, if you can please select your answer here. The question is, have you or a loved one experienced a cardiac event? And your options are, yes, I personally have, yes, my loved one has, yes, both myself and a loved one, or no, I'm here because I want to be more mindful about my heart health. So while we wait for everyone to submit their answers, is it true 1 in 3 women, is that the statistic? 1 in 3 women in the US has some form of heart disease?
That's directed at me.
Yeah, whomever.
I don't know the exact statistic, but you're right when you say that it is the #1 killer of women.
To see if the car wash.
Oh, Julie, I think we need to mute you. There you go. Real talk.
I don't know the exact number. I'm not sure if it's 1 in 3, but you're correct when you say it's the #1 killer of women in the country. And I think that is a surprise to most women because there's such a focus on women's reproductive health, breast cancer, that kind of a thing. I think even now, most women don't know that it's the #1 killer in the country.
Yeah.
And so I think it's extremely important for this to be on women's radar and for them to know the symptoms of heart disease, know how to be proactive about their heart health. And I think this hopefully they'll learn during this webinar how to do some of those things.
So let's learn a little bit more about our participants. Do we have the results here? Yes. Okay. So 53% say that they've had a loved one. And then we have 10% who say they personally have experienced, and another 8% who have both themselves and a loved one. So quite a good amount, over half of our participants have had someone, either themselves or someone close to them, have had a cardiac event. So let's talk about heart health, or excuse me, about mental health, and how that can play a role in our heart health. I don't think that I fully understood the correlation between the two.
Mental health absolutely plays a role in heart health. First and foremost, after a woman has had a cardiac event, any kind of cardiac event, they are more likely to have it affect their mental health. They're more likely to become anxious, depressed, after that event. So that can often affect their recovery after such an event. As you can imagine, if somebody's anxious or depressed, it would hinder their ability to bounce back and recuperate. So on top of that, we have a lot of pressure on ourselves as women. So after suffering a cardiac event, we're trying to deal with recovering from that while still trying to be the primary caregiver, caring for our children, caring for our husband. It can be overwhelming. So all of those things can lead to women adopting unhealthy coping mechanisms, overeating, drinking, smoking, lack of exercise. All of those things in turn can hinder recovery and lead to more cardiac issues down the road. So absolutely, mental health can play a role in people who've had a cardiac event already.
Bridget, from my work, I do a lot of work in mind-body health. And so I was fascinated to see that the American Heart Association actually has a scientific paper on this topic. So when a very traditional organization is endorsing what Dr. Dunham just said, then we're moving in the right direction. And I noticed in a lot of the questions that we got beforehand, there are a lot of questions about anxiety and depression and I think someone said, how do I control my emotions? And I thought it might be good just to have a bit of a conversation about just emotions in general. And in my work in psychology, the way I think about emotions is energy in motion. They move through our body. They're meant to move through. And first and foremost, it's important to get help if you need support. But this scientific paper actually talks about positive psychological health and negative psychological health, which I don't like to label it as that, but as well as affecting our emotional health, affecting recovery after a heart incident, it can also contribute to us getting it in the first place. And the way I think about the heart as a muscle, and expands and contracts and expands. So expansive emotions like love and hope and optimism and sense of purpose literally expand the heart. And I have people visualize that, like visualizing, and the contracting emotions, hostility and anger and resentment, they can contribute to a contraction, not just of the heart, but of the vessels too, which block the oxygen to the heart. So biologically, there are interesting effects of so-called negative emotional experiences on the heart, such as uncontrolled blood glucose, high blood pressure, obviously a higher BMI because of the unhealthy behaviors we just talked about. So there is such strong links between this topic we're talking about, and I really acknowledge that we're talking about it tonight.
And I'm glad, Karen, that not only after you've had an event, but before you've ever even have a cardiac event, these mental health issues can play a role and contribute to causing, cardiac issues. So absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. And for a lot of us as women, of course, what do? We just soldier on because we got things to do, we got kids to look after, and not pay attention to a lot of, especially mental health issues. Because I've heard people say, I don't have time for this. I got kids to raise, a life to do. So I like people to consider mental health just like they would physical health. If you've got concerned about a heart issue or some pain, and Dr. Dunham might be able to speak to like what should women be really looking for in terms of, sometimes it's a different presentation between men and women, but the same goes with mental health. Treat it as a significant wellness health issue and get help. I cannot emphasize that enough.
So let's, before we, because I want to touch on and get to those symptoms, those physical symptoms, but I think we can talk just a little bit more about what you said. So there's really two aspects I think that you both talked about. There's the aspect of stress, anxiety, and I think a lot of us have been coping with that. Certainly during this time of COVID, I think that's just been something that people are talking a lot more about, but that how that can, even that fight or flight response, how that can actually increase maybe underlying heart-related issues and contribute to those. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So yes, constant state of stress and anxiety raises cortisol levels in the body. The physiologic response to that is an increase in cortisol levels, which can increase blood glucose levels, can increase blood pressure, which can lead to weight gain and all the negative effects that go along with it. So absolutely, living in a constant state of fight or flight is not how your body was meant to function, and it's not healthy. So again, to Karen's point, if you are noticing that you're under constant stress, under constant anxiety, you need to seek help or seek methods to bring that down, calm that down, and seek help for your mental wellness.
Okay. And then you also talked about mental health after a cardiac event, and that what those emotions, because I think that's a whole nother set of real emotions that I think women tend to maybe brush off or think that I'm taking care of my physical health, but the long-term mental aspects of having gone through a traumatic event is something that maybe we don't talk enough about.
Absolutely. That is a very real thing. Depression after a heart attack or any other major cardiac event after major cardiac surgery is a very real thing. I see it firsthand. That's where a support group might come in handy that can help support you through it. Other people who've been through something similar to what you've been through. Virtua actually has a women's heart support group for women who have survived a cardiac event. They meet on a monthly basis and offer each other support. There's usually an expert who guides the discussion on those monthly talks. And sometimes something like cardiac rehab can also help with that support. I refer a lot of my patients to cardiac rehab after a cardiac event, which is an exercise program where you can also meet other survivors of cardiac events. And it kind of helps to be around that support group and talk to other people who've been through what you've been through, to get that support and get you out of that depression and anxiety. I can't tell you the number of patients I've seen after a cardiac event. They're afraid. They're afraid to start exercising again. They're afraid to start moving again. They don't know what they can and can't do. They're afraid of having another event. They're living in a state of anxiety. Yes. And that's where finding support can really help.
And I think, Dr. Dunham, cardiac rehab has really progressed over the years. So a lot of people think, oh, well, it's just kind of helping me exercise. But they really do focus on the mind-body connection. So that your support group you talk about, actually sitting around and talking about those fears. Again, since emotions are energy in motion, talking about them can get them out of our body and can start moving them, which is really important. And cardiac rehab is all encompassing of mind and body, and support group mindfulness practices. A lot of them do mindfulness practices. They do yoga as a form of mind body practice. So I'm so happy that is being embraced in a bigger way. And for our listeners to know that is an important part of the cardiac rehab. And some of the studies have shown that this concept of gratitude, optimism, hope does decrease your chances of, having another cardiac event or being readmitted post acute
And we will
cardiac event.
share information at the end. We will share some links and information for that, our Women Heart support group for anyone who's interested in that, or the cardiac rehab program, as we do offer those at virtual locations. And they're fabulous programs, and I've heard so many great stories about people who just didn't realize that support was available for them or for their family member, and what a difference it can make.
Mm-hmm. And committing to that, Bridget, like, it's so easy to say, I don't have time for that, again, because as women, we're busy, but to be able to put that as a priority, because it's as important as going to get a health screening, attending those and getting that support.
Absolutely.
And the first step is to just verbalize those feelings, right? Like, I think as women, we tend to bottle things up. We tend to try to be strong and soldier on. But even just verbalizing to your healthcare provider, like, hey, I'm struggling, I'm having a lot of anxiety, a lot of trouble dealing with this cardiac, event I just had. And then they can link you to these support groups. You may not know what's out there until you speak up and say you need help. So it's important to verbalize what you're going through, because there's a lot of resources out there that you may not be aware of.
And they're there for a reason, because you're not the only one that's going through that. There's many people who have had those experiences. So we have another polling question to get our participants involved in the discussion. And this is a question about what do you know about your heart health? Which of the following affects your heart health? Check all that apply. Family history, caregiving concerns, financial worries, guilt, lifestyle, diet and exercise, menopause, stress, or I don't want to think about it.
That's a trick question.
It's so true.
I do say so.
And I think a lot of women overlook the physical symptoms too. We brush it off as hormones or lack of sleep. High blood pressure is considered the silent killer. And that's just, I certainly think we do sort of ignore these things because we're busy, because we brush them off as something that we'll get to later. So I'm curious what our crowd has to say here. All right, so yeah, really good answers here. Looks like we've got some high answers for certainly family history and stress, but also people understanding that all of these factors really contribute. Would you agree with that?
Well, any of them. There's so many of them. They all relate to stress. I like the way that you say guilt. Guilt has an effect. When I think of that word, it's one of those constricting emotions. And caregiving, oh my gosh, what a huge stress. We had quite a few questions actually submitted early about the effects of being a caregiver, and that can be very stressful. So again, think of stress as constricting, and the vessels and the heart, and the importance of practices to help move that through the body, which we're going to talk about, I'm sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the physical things that the physical warning signs that our body is sending us, and then we'll talk about maybe some of those other more emotional or mental warning signs related to heart disease. What are, it's you always hear it may not be that dramatic movie clutching your chest symptom that is a heart attack, or what about the symptoms leading up to that before the actual debilitating event? What are those things that we need to make sure we're not brushing off as lack of sleep?
So I think one of the key things earlier was that men and women often have different symptoms. So you're 100% right. You're not always going to get that movie star, clutching your chest and feeling like you have an elephant sitting on your chest. Women often have more atypical symptoms. So the classic symptoms, of course, are chest pain, substernal chest pain, left-sided, some with the pain maybe going down your left arm, or up into your neck and jaw. Those are absolutely concerning. But many times women can have symptoms as vague as extreme fatigue, just feeling more fatigued than usual. Even nausea can be a sign of cardiac disease. Shortness of breath is another one. You may not get chest pain, but you might feel more short of breath than usual. Those are all warning signs of heart disease.
How do you know when it's not anxiety, right? Because I think that so many times women say that their symptoms are brushed off as, look, I'm already stressed. There's a lot going on in my life. It's anxiety and stress.
Well,
Can we tell?
No, you can't tell, Bridget. That's the problem. You can't blow off these symptoms. If something's going on, you need to get it checked out and make sure that it's not your heart. You need to talk to a professional. You need to talk to your doctor, and they can help you tease out whether or not this is something to be concerned about.
How often do your patients say, well, I started having these feelings 2 weeks ago. I sat in my car and couldn't catch my breath, but then I just drove the kids to soccer, or I drove to work?
That happens all the time, unfortunately. I think there has been increased awareness among women due to webinars like these, Women's Heart Month, and just the American Heart Association being more vocal about women's heart health. I think there has been more awareness. I find that women are becoming more quick to seek help, but there's still a large number of women out there who do blow off their symptoms, or they've been told by their physician that it's just anxiety, or that, oh, you're just stressed out, but if you know your body better than anyone else. And if you know that something is not right, something is different, something has changed, and you're not feeling like you usually feel, you need to be an advocate for your own health and seek a second opinion or seek an expert's opinion, because women often have these atypical symptoms. They don't always have the classic symptoms. And historically, women have been dismissed, with their symptoms. And I think we need to be advocates for our own health. So,
and rule it out. Like, what's the best case scenario is you rule it out and it's,
exactly.
Heartburn, indigestion, and you can deal with that then, right?
We had that mantra, when in doubt, check it out. There's always a, when in doubt, check it out. And just the other day, I had a friend that called me and she said she does pickleball, which of course is a hugely popular sport. And every day she plays pickleball, and she's as fit as anything, not overweight, she eats really healthy. The look of her, she looks like she's like absolutely healthy. And she told me that she woke up with chest pain. She woke up with chest pain. And in her mind, she said, oh yeah, but I play pickleball all the time, so I'm fine. I said, no, when in doubt, check it out. So I sent her in that moment to go and get it. She lives in Florida, so I couldn't help her. But she went and got an EKG, that kind of information needs to be checked out. So don't assume, because we tend to do that, or try and discount because, well, I work out, so waking up with chest pain is, it's a very important trigger. So, and there are ways.
That's a good one.
Yeah, an EKG, quick, simple thing to be able to.
Should we have a workup? Is there a certain age when we should be talking to our doctor about having a cardiac workup, or is that just keeping up with your annual physicals and blood pressure monitoring?
So, well, I just want to back up one more second and talk about what we were saying before about when, when to seek help. There have been so many times I've had women come and apologize and say, oh, I'm sorry to waste your time. I'm sure this is nothing, oh, I shouldn't go to the ER and waste their time. Waste everyone's time, because that is what we're here for. We're here to check you out and make sure that it's not something serious. I would love to see 50 women who come to see me and nothing's wrong with them, rather than miss one woman who doesn't come see me and has something wrong with them. So I just wanted to make that point. And then back to what you were saying, when should we start seeing a cardiologist? I always tell my patients that if you are a postmenopausal female, even if you have no other risk factors or medical disease, that's probably when you should start seeing a cardiologist, because after menopause is when women's risk for heart disease really climbs. The caveat to that is if you have any other risk factors, if you're diabetic, if you have high blood pressure, if you have high cholesterol, if you have a strong family history, if you're a smoker, then you should probably come even sooner.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And thank you for saying that. What is it about us as women that we have to apologize? Can we just get over that now? And know that we're all so valuable and need to show up and say, I want to be healthy and I want to make sure I'm healthy so that I can do all
Right.
these great things in the world I want to do.
Absolutely. Right? You're worth it. And your health needs to come first, because how can you care for all the other people in your life if you're not caring for yourself and your health? It's easy to say, I know, but it's so true. All right, we talked about some of the physical symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Are there mental warning signs, those emotional feelings that the body is sending as, those warning lights that this could be heart related and more serious?
Well, this is where it gets a little dicey, Dr. Dunham, because especially what we've just been through in the last 2 years. It's normal. Think about what we've been through in terms of a sense of purpose and in being the anxiety, depression. It's normal. Like, what's normal and what's something that we need to pay attention to, which is again a good reason to be connected. So disconnecting socially, which again, last 2 years, they actually asked us to socially distance.
Right.
I never liked that term, but we need connection. So withdrawing, not being interested in things that we're normally interested, there's such a strong link between depression and heart disease. And whether one leads to the other, like it's a two-way street, of course. Again, the biggest response is, whatever you're experiencing, check it out, because there are links between all of these emotional, mental health issues and heart health. And whether it's a sign of a heart issue or not, I often talk about emotional and spiritual heart disease as much as physical heart disease, because they're all connected. This heart is just the most amazing organ and everything affects it. So being whole and healthy emotionally and physically is so important to optimal heart health.
Well, let's continue on that. And that's really, one of your many areas of expertise, Karen, in how do we start to incorporate some of those healthy mental health practices into our lives, because it doesn't always feel accessible for everyone. And I know there's things that we can do, but I think you're right. This emotional merry-go-round we've been on for the last 2 years has really taken a toll. And I think that we could all use kind of a moment to step back and put some of those healthy practices, mental health practices in our lives. But where do we get started?
Well, I think those last 2 years, the good news, and there's good news about the last 2 years, is the concept of mental health or mental health awareness has been raised big time. And we've certainly seen a higher incidence of mental health issues and drug issues related to coping. But a term has been used a lot in the last few years called resilience. I like that term. Some people might think it's overused, but that's the term I use when I like to kind of teach some skills that we can build. It's like a muscle. So just like when we're exercising, we want to build muscles, you want to build resilient skills and build them at times when maybe you don't need them so much, so that they're ready when you need them. And one of those is, of course, lifestyle practices that we know about, eating well. For me, exercise, and I know Dr. Dunham is the same, exercise is my mental health savior. And I exercise more for my mental health, I would say, than my physical health. And maybe you don't use the word exercise because as moms, often we don't have time to go. I'm not talking about going to the gym, but having some kind of physical activity that is meaningful to you and fits into your schedule and raises the heart rate just a little. I like to say that. Like, walking is great. And if you can do just a little.
I have a friend, she's committed to that. She and her partner, they take the kids, they go out for a walk almost every night after dinner. Yes. Or while the kids are at their dance, or activities, they're walking, because that's their time to connect. And I think such a great routine. And it doesn't require the exercise word.
See, there's that thing. You actually said something, Bridget, after dinner. When you walk after dinner, it lowers your blood glucose because you're actually walking off your what you've just eaten. So that's it's got a double benefit there for that person. But fitting it in, like dropping your kids off to dance practice and And instead of just sitting in the car, you could actually go and move and go for a nice walk. So there are those eating well, keeping your blood sugar down. It's very important. Strong link between up and down blood sugar and heart health for sure. And we could talk like all day about that. And in terms of mental health, which I know a lot of people wanted to know about because in our questions, we got a lot of questions about that. There's this word called mindfulness, which I really like, and people get confused about that. All it means is being fully present in the moment. Because we have a very busy mind, busy, like always, especially as women. We've got like our to-do list, we can almost see it in our dreams. They're like, there it is. And mindfulness is just being fully grounded in the moment. And there are many practices that you can engage just to bring your attention in to the present moment, which actually, scientifically, we talked about the stress response, which is a sympathetic nervous system. Mindfulness engages the opposite of that, which is the parasympathetic, which calms the nervous system down. Anything we can do that can calm and open those blood vessels and heart is so healing, and even in little snippets of time. They don't have to be like long time or sitting doing nothing. I actually like mindfulness walking, where I love to walk, and instead of thinking of my to-do list, I just focus on, say, my foot going up and down, or the trees, or the flowers, or the clouds. So it's called mindfulness walking. So we're active, but we're focused on the present moment. And yoga is another one. I know Dr. Dunham loves to do yoga as a practice, and you can do that in small little snippets of time, but it grounds you.
So I want to touch on two things that Karen said about the mindfulness. Absolutely. I think there's little ways to work that into your daily practice. You don't have to go to a 1-hour yoga session. You can just start your day with 5 minutes of deep breathing and a few simple yoga poses. You know, do a downward dog and a sun salutation, and just do those stretches for 5 minutes. And that's a great way to start your day with mindfulness and being grounded. Anytime you're feeling stressed and that to-do list, you know, we as women are such multitaskers. We're doing one thing and thinking about 50 other things. You know, sometimes you just need to bring it down, and maybe even just a minute of deep breathing, or a minute of just, you know, closing your eyes and just grounding yourself. And that mindfulness, you know, I know we're going to talk about this later, how that also plays into gratitude and being grateful for the moment you're in. So all of those things can be incorporated in little snippets throughout the day. It doesn't have to be, you know, a dedicated 1-hour breathing session. Another thing I wanted to talk about were some of the physiological benefits of exercise to your mental health. We know that, you know, definitely exercise is a way that I cope with stress, anxiety, and depression. And we know that exercise and movement releases serotonin in the brain, which is the same happiness hormone that some of these antidepressant drugs are meant to increase. So, you know, it's exercise and movement is a great way to up the levels of serotonin in the brain, you out of that depression, and actually help you feel better mentally, not just physically. So, so those
sometimes it's hard to take that first step, though. It's just like there's that, especially when you're so low or you're feeling low, right? And I think the things you're talking about are very approachable, though. You're not going to the gym. You don't have to do the hour class. It can be as simple as 3 stretches, you know, at the foot of your bed, right? That just gets that heart pumping, and then find a buddy and take a walk.
That's you don't need a gym membership. You don't need weights. You don't have to take some fancy class. Just walk. Just walk. Just go for a walk. It's as simple as that.
Right.
It's one of my dreams, as you're talking about serotonin, that every time Dr. Dunham talked about serotonin, which one of the most prescribed pharmaceuticals is Prozac or Zoloft or Paxil, which boost your serotonin. And it's been my dream that every time one of those were prescribed, there'd be another little sheet that would be handed out about lifestyle factors to support serotonin. So we're truly kind of working together. And these lifestyle factors, and serotonin is the feel-good neurotransmitter. So exercise, sunlight, friendship, social support, body work like massage. These all help build your feel-good neurotransmitters. And it also gives us, knowing that gives us a sense of control over how we're living our life and balancing our body. And not to say these medications aren't great, because they've saved. I remember I had postpartum depression after my baby, and what I found was, because I love to exercise, I had a C-section, I couldn't exercise. So that was my mood just went, phew. So that was a real lesson for me and Prozac helped me come out of that. And I've learned all these lifestyle factors that help me with my mood and my emotions. And I never knew that. No one ever told me. I had to kind of research it myself, but so many things we can do.
Well, and it requires work on and cooperation on our individual, on us, right? And so I think many times physicians are quick to say, well, here's your script and here's what, you know, I can do for you. And so I think those conversations are becoming more a part of that physician-patient relationship, or what are the things that us as individuals can do for ourselves to complement that prescription. And I think that's so important, what you were talking about, the serotonin and the things that, you know, that you can do to help boost your mental health, your physical health, your heart health. Yeah, for me, it's finding a buddy, because it holds me accountable.
Yes. And of course, buddies, that's social connections that helps open up your heart, because it's just amazing when we can actually talk. And we've said that a lot tonight, talking about it, instead of that shame or guilt or apologizing. To the opposite of that is just sharing what's true with someone that you trust, and being able to move it through the body, move these emotions.
So I want to make sure we have some time to talk about practicing gratitude, but I know that, Karen, you also have a little exercise for us to put that deep breathing practice into our day. Can we do that anywhere, everywhere? Yes, can we do it right now?
Yes. Let's do it right now.
Okay.
And the nice thing is you can do this at any time, a little short amount of time. So first thing is to just, wherever you're sitting, if you're sitting out there, we're going to take a mindful moment, just sitting quietly. And if you're sitting in the chair, instead of sitting forward, just sit back. Let yourself be supported by the chair, and take a deep breath in. And on the breath out, just let the breath out be a release. And if you're comfortable closing your eyes, that would be wonderful, because we're shutting out external stimuli and we're just going within. And take another deep breath in. And on the breath out, just again, releasing any tightness, any tension, just allowing yourself to be fully present in the moment. And if you can, just scan your body right now, and on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is really stressed and 1 is just chilled, floating like a cloud, give yourself a number. How stressed do you feel right now? Just a number, no right or wrong, just a number. And now take another deep breath in. This time on the breath in, we're going to take in gratitude for being right here. And on the breath out, we're just going to let go. And if you're comfortable putting your hands over your heart, with the breath now, we're going to breathe in love. And we're going to breathe out anything different than that. Any of those emotions we were talking about tonight that are constricting, we're going to let them go. And on the breath in, we're going to breathe in love and gratitude. And on the breath out, just letting go again. And just bring to mind something or someone that you are deeply grateful for. Just bring someone or something that you just feel so grateful. Could be a person, could be your heart, could be your animal. Just bring those feelings of love and gratitude, just take them into your heart. And I want you to visualize a golden thread from your heart out, where that gratitude and love is just going out to that personal thing and coming back through that golden thread back to your heart. It's all you have to focus on, love and gratitude. And with another deep breath in, expand your heart even more with that love. And on the breath out, release, release, release. And just pop your hands down. Pop your hands down and now scan your body again and just notice if there's been a shift in your level of stress from 0 to 10. What number would you give it now? And just with some love and appreciation for being right here, right now, when you're ready to just open your eyes, come back to us here in this beautiful space where it's full of kindness and gratitude and love. Just sit with that. And know that you can come back to this little short exercise at any time. For me, the thread of golden light helps to lock in the movement of emotions and putting my hand over my heart. It's something you can do at any time. If you're in an argument with someone, I can often just, okay, I'm just going to send love. I'm just going to send love as an antidote to the other emotion. Because remember, emotions are energy in motion, and our job is to feel them, don't deny them. There are. And that you can have the opposite emotions within seconds of each other, feeling like anxious and annoyed, and then, okay, I'm just going to send love. And the more you practice it, I find, the more that movement can happen. As human beings, we're going to have all ranges of emotion, and having those expansive, I don't call them negative and positive, I call them expansive and contracting emotions. So practice that. I've just found it really helpful for me and the clients I work with. So I hope that was good for you.
Thank you. Definitely going to try to remember that. And that just took us a couple of minutes, really. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to gratitude. That's something that has come up a couple of times, and I think it's an important piece of this mindful practice. But there's also a lot of research around the benefits of gratitude for our health.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Our immune system.
Mm.
Wow. Never heard about that in the last 2 years. I would have been nice to hear about what we could do. I know we had to talk about the disease, the entity, but just the public health messaging of the things we can do to support a healthy immune system, to reduce stress, to regulate blood sugar. It's just amazing how much research there is on the link between gratitude and health and many aspects. And there is of course, Fred Rogers. I always think of Fred Rogers, won't you be my neighbor? And he gave you can Google it. I think it was like his Emmy Award-winning speech way back. And you say Fred Rogers, Emmy Award-winning speech. And he had all of these movie stars in this big theater, right, ready for their awards. And he got this Lifetime Achievement Award. And he got up in the way that he does, the beautiful tone of his voice. And he talked about kindness and gratitude. And he had the audience just in tears, because often tears are a way that we do release. So also as women, don't be afraid of them. Let tears be a way that we release some of that pent up emotion. If I could say, there's an American Indian saying that tears are the gift of the spirit sent to us to loosen our soil so we might grow in new and different ways.
I love that.
and just being with that, being able to feel and let it be and not apologize. I'm so glad you brought that word up, Dr. Dunham, because I do think it's a big thing for us as women to learn to embrace every aspect of our human beingness, every emotion. Because when you don't express, they get stuck in the body. Yeah, constricting. Yep.
Are
And
there things
gratitude
that
opens that.
Are there some other things that each of you do to, or advice that you would have to start practicing gratitude in our daily lives?
So yeah, I was going to actually ask Karen that same question. I think one of the things that has been important for me in the last 2 years, and trying to find gratitude in the situation we've been in for the last 2 years, is to journal or just write down every day 3 things that you're grateful for in the day. You know, just bullet points. You don't have to journal and write a long entry, but just 1, 2, 3 things I'm grateful for today. And that can really help. It can help boost your mood. It can help you see things in a different light, help push out some of those negative emotions like Karen was talking about. So I find that useful for sure, is journaling the things I'm grateful for, or even just writing them down.
And I keep one of those journals in my car, again, because being busy, it's easy to forget to do that, or to not put that as top priority. So I have one in my car. So in those little moments, again, when I'm just sitting or I'm parked and I'm about to go in the supermarket, I'll pull out my journal and I'll do what Dr. Dunham said, just writing down 3 things I'm grateful for. And a big tip for if you have families, this is a fun thing to do with kids, is to get a big jar or even a tissue box and put a hole in the tissue box and make a gratitude jar or a gratitude box. And as a family, even if you did it each evening, to write down a little piece of paper, the things you're grateful for. And kids can do this from as young as they can start writing, and you put those in the jar or in the box. And then you have this, the see-through jars are good because you can see it growing, so that you have that connection to the expansive things we're so grateful for. And then you can from time to time pull them out and read them together. And so what you're doing is you're reprogramming your nervous system towards gratitude, because our brains are naturally wired for fear. It's just a primitive reflex we have. So unless we practice the muscle of gratitude, it won't automatically come. So having these practices, and I just encourage you with kids to start it early, gratitude jars or gratitude box, gratitude journals, and do it together as a family and talk about it.
Well, and I think that the point that you made about that there's medical research behind this, there's clinical trials that show the benefits of gratitude. It's not just a nice to do that there's real benefits to our mental health and our physical health. And yes, it's as simple, it could be just as simple as writing it on a piece of paper. I love the idea of keeping it in your car. There's so many times I do a lot of thinking in the car. I love that idea of having that just stashed away when you're parked, of course, safely, to be able to jot that down.
Or a gratitude rock, something that grounds you. Again, that mindful ground you in the present moment. And then when you hold that, it doesn't have to be a rock. It can be anything of meaning. Like, I love your lovely necklace there. That heart could be a lovely rock you could kind of ground to just have a reminder to express gratitude. Because again, the habit, just like any exercise, any muscle, the more you use it, the more you practice, the more it will become part of your being.
And purposeful.
Yes, intentional, purposeful. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, I know that we have some questions that we wanted to try to get to. Let me see if I can open those up here. I've been so engaged in the conversation, I haven't been monitoring all my questions here. So this has been wonderful. How about, actually, I'm not seeing them here. Let's talk about, is there, one of the questions I saw earlier was about too much exercise, or how do you know, like, how to regulate that for your heart health?
Yeah, I often get asked that question because, again, everyone is different. So if you're exercise can be an addiction. I mean, we're talking about a lot of exercise, but a way to kind of run away and increase the stress response. So there's that sweet spot that is heart opening and pleasurable. And I think pleasure, I actually call it vitamin P for pleasure, pleasurable and heart healthy is moderate, because you can't over exercise. And
absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, if you're getting to the point where you're getting to the point where you're injuring yourself, it's too much exercise. But, you know, in terms of heart health, we aim for about 30 to 60 minutes of moderate intensity exercise most days of the week. And as Karen was mentioning, exercise can absolutely become an addictive behavior. So you have to recognize, you know, again, be in tune with your own mental health and recognize if things are reaching a point where it's unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think we had a specific question about exercise post-menopausal, and it's very, I thought that was an interesting question because I'm at that stage of my life, and I just listen to my body and adjust exercise according to where I'm at, whether it's my knees or however I'm feeling. And I intend to be as healthy and fit and right through till I don't kind of say I have to do less. It's just because I'm postmenopausal, but I certainly listen to my body and let my body speak and let me know what's okay. If I have to miss a day, great. I don't tend to, like, it's natural things like being careful with joints that I don't, yeah, I'd love to run, but I don't run anymore. And I use nice soft surfaces and walk on grass when I can, and just being smart about it. But I'm here to tell you that I feel like age is just a number, and a lot of it is our mental approach to it. And I mean, flexibility. Dr. Dunham talks a lot about yoga. One of the most important things as we age is staying flexible, staying strong. Being skinny is not necessarily healthy for us because it's terrible for our bones.
Well, I want to talk about yoga a little bit, and that's why I do love yoga so much, because it is so adaptive. You can adapt it based on your ability, based on your age, based on if your knee is hurting that day. You can modify the movements. I always say anyone at any age and of any fitness level can do yoga. And you know, speaking of the body of evidence that Bridget was talking about, there's a large body of scientific evidence that shows yoga can improve blood pressure, blood glucose, maintain a healthy body weight. There's a lot of data behind yoga as a form of exercise as well. And, you know, finally, what you were saying, in postmenopausal people, or as we get older in general, we do lose flexibility. We lose core muscle strength. We lose our sense of balance, which is why you often hear of people having falls as they get older, you know, and you know, breaking a hip or things like that. Yoga supports all of those things. It supports core strength, maintains balance, flexibility, and it's adaptable to any age group and any level of fitness. So I do love yoga. I think it's a great way to improve your heart health and exercise.
I just had a visual, Dr. Dunham, of you in your clinic doing yoga with your patients. I think that was really cool.
We actually did that. We had a session a few summers ago, like a community outreach thing, where I led a yoga session, and about 20 people showed up, and we talked about the heart benefits of yoga and health benefits of yoga. And we did, I think, like a half-hour yoga session.
I think we should do that again when the weather gets warm. You're signed up. Let's do that. We didn't talk.
It was a yoga instructor there as well, but I helped lead the crowd. So,
how about something I don't think we didn't talk too very much about, was genetic factors, family history related to heart health. I think you know, I know someone who seems very healthy, works out, eats healthy, and still ended up with a cardiac condition. Can you just talk a little bit about that, and maybe what we need to know in order to kind of take care of that, take care of ourselves when there is a family risk.
Do you do any genetic testing, Dr. Dunham, with your patients?
I don't do genetic testing. A lot of those blood tests and genetic tests are not widely available. If somebody specifically needs genetic testing or mapping, we usually send them to a university health center where they can get those tests done. Genetics, absolutely. So family history definitely plays a role in your risk for heart disease. So you should know your family history. Many people don't even know, the details of how grandmom died, or what exactly happened to dad when he was in the hospital last year. So it's important to become familiar with your parents and, grandparents' medical history and what kind of heart health they have. And, I often say that if you have a family history, if you have a genetic risk for heart disease, yes, you have that card stacked against you. So why not do everything that is in your control to stack those cards in your favor? So, being healthy, eating healthy, exercising, keeping your heart healthy can only work in your favor. You may still have that heart attack because it's in your genetics or it's in your family history, but your chances of surviving that heart attack, recovering from that heart attack, and how you function after that heart attack is going to be much greater if you go into it as your healthiest self. So I always tell patients, stack the cards in your favor. The things that are under your control, you should try to control. You can't control your family history. You can't control your genetics, but you can control what you eat. You can control how much you exercise. You can control, seeing a doctor regularly, keeping your blood pressure under control, keeping your cholesterol under control, all those things. So especially if you have a family history, you should be proactive and make that preventative health visit with your doctor or cardiologist.
What are the things that you should know about your family history? Because sometimes I think that that's also a little confusing. Is it if, grandpa had a heart attack? Is it like, what are those questions you should be asking at the next family gathering?
So cardiologist, the most important thing is if there's a history of heart attack, of coronary disease. Did grandpa have a heart attack? At what age did he have a heart attack? Because if there's a history of premature heart disease, people having heart attacks at a young age, that's an even bigger risk factor for heart disease. So you want to know if they actually had a heart attack or did they have something else going on with their heart, because I have a lot of patients who come in and they say, oh yeah, grandma had some kind of heart issue. Well, we need a little more detail than that. Did they have an arrhythmia? Did they have congestive heart failure? Did they actually have a heart attack? Exactly what did they have? And at what age, roughly speaking, did that happen? Or did that, first occur? So for me, that's important.
And there are some blood markers that we're more and more testing for now. Lp(a), for example, this is a genetic marker that we didn't used to test for 10 years ago, but now it's more and more. Cardiologists tend to be, primary care maybe not, but cardiologists are testing for it. And that's a significant marker suggesting a genetic risk factor. So make sure that you get your testing done and some of the more advanced testing, especially if you've got high risk factors for heart health.
Yes.
Inflammatory markers, because heart disease is considered an inflammatory condition. So CRP and highly specific CRP, know your numbers. Again, it's up to us to know our bodies and know our numbers. And a lot of people also, you say, well, what's your vitamin D level or what's your CRP? Oh, it's fine. No, what's the number? And
Right.
So get really educated about.
Know your numbers, right? Yeah, I've noticed as I've gotten older, my blood pressure has been increasing when I go and have my checkups. It's still within a healthy range, but it's high for what I used to be. So does that mean it's like should I be worried about that? Is that high? If it's higher than what I used to be?
Do you get scared going to the doctor?
No, I don't think so.
So as long as it's within a normal, healthy range, I would not worry about it. But the question I would ask is, what is your lifestyle in general? What kind of foods are you eating? What kind of exercise regimen are you keeping? All those kinds of things.
I sit right here at this computer most of the day.
Yes. Get that blood flowing.
Okay. So there we go. What you had mentioned early heart attack, and I just saw a question come up. What constitutes early? What age is it?
We usually say before the age of 60 is considered premature heart disease.
Okay. I'm seeing some people give suggestions about yoga classes, local library. Oh. There's things on through Zoom, free yoga classes that you can take if you want to try that out. Great. There's some great chats happening here.
I saw someone say chair yoga. I mean, if people they're not able, for some reason, they have restrictions. There's all kinds of accommodations, such as chair yoga.
I used to do that a little bit more at my desk, even just doing a little. It's very helpful.
And I love that the library, because I tell my own patients that I said, listen, if you don't want to invest in joining a yoga studio, if you don't want to invest in paying for a class, check out a yoga DVD at the local library for free and just try it out at home on your own. So, and just see what you think. And if it's something you find that you like, then you can invest, further.
Yes.
That's great. So we are coming up on time, and I think we have had such a wonderful conversation and so much good information. I think the deep breathing, that taking a moment is so helpful. And even, when you mentioned that, do I get nervous going to the doctor's office? Maybe I should just take a few moments and do a little deep breathing before I go in and help bring that heart rate down. Are there any, before we kind of close out, are there any final tips or advice that you would give to our guests that they could put into practice, starting tonight or first thing tomorrow morning?
I have one I forgot to mention about gratitude, and it's something that will change. It's changed my life, and it's something that I've put into practice. As soon as I wake up in the morning, so my eyes open or my eyes closed, I just make it a practice to do the gratitude practice for 3 things I'm grateful for and then I just put them in my heart as starting my day that way. And it could be my puppy dog, it could be my heart. I always say my heart, because to be grateful for this heart that we have that is just pumping for us without us having to do anything. If you have trouble thinking about something to be grateful for, just think about this amazing human body we have that works for us just automatically, or my partner, and I just start my day that way. And so I set the intention for gratitude to the day. So start your day that way tomorrow, as soon as you wake up. That would be my tip.
The tip that I have is going to be a little bit more medical. I love what Karen said. When in doubt, check it out. If there's anyone out there who's even had a doubt or thinks, oh, is it too early to see a cardiologist? No, it's never too early. Make an appointment, get checked out, get connected with the cardiologist. It's important to have one in your life, I think, and it's never too early.
And have one that listens to you, which is just so beautiful, that what you said, Dr. Dunham, about this is your body. And so your body best. And the way that you listen to your patients, I think it's just such a gift.
Well, and you've led me perfectly into my closing remarks that Dr. Dunham sees patients in Cherry Hill and Woodbury. We have more than 100 cardiac experts at Virtua, and our team of female cardiologists specialize in heart health from a woman's point of view. You will receive an email in the next few days with a link to a recording of this session and some additional helpful links for women's heart health and mental health resources. You can also find Karen Wolfe at drkarenwolfe.org if you would like to tap into some of her fabulous resources. For more information or to schedule a consult, go to virtua.org/heartconsult. And we also will share information about our Women Heart Group. That's the monthly cardiac support group for women living with heart disease. The next session is Thursday, February 10th at 6:30. And we will have a panel of Virtua's female cardiologists doing a Q&A. And you can join through Zoom, it's free. And you can find information at virtua.org/women's cardiology. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Rozy Dunham. Thank you, Dr. Karen Wolfe. This has been a really fabulous Real Talk Women's Health Chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Have a wonderful night.